Hello everybody, my name is Aceface. I wanted to talk to you guys about a ship called the Retribution and why it's so good for the Abyss. Why I love this ship, why I think it's such a it feels almost like it was made for the Abyss. Apart from maybe one aspect of it, but it feels otherwise like such a natural Abyss ship. And I wanted to talk to you guys what makes it such a good Abyss ship. Because I've seen, when I was new to the Abyss, I was thinking a lot of people use Retributions and use Hawks and use certain types of ships, but I never really understood why was it such a good ship, or why did people choose that ship in particular. Why did they not choose, for example, I don't know, Crucified Navy issue or something else like maybe an Enyo or another type of ship? Here is the Retribution. It didn't used to be a very popular ship of mine. In fact, my friend called Ibetijori, he really indoctrinated me with the Retribution. He explained and showed how good this ship performs in the Abyss, and he really inspired me to like this ship a lot. Now this fit right here is actually his fit. I tweaked it slightly, but it is his fit, called Fire Support. And this is basically a really great fit for doing low tier Abyss, and also you can do high tier if you're in a team. And it's just great for kiting, taking out stuff, and having good tank. I wanted to explain what kind of attributes the Retribution has that makes it do so well in the Abyss. Well, one thing that I noticed that the Retribution has that really exceeds a lot of other ships is its buffer. Well, let's look at its tank. Its buffer. The HP it's got, the armor HP, is off the charts for when it comes to normal frigates. It's got naturally 1.5k HP in the armor and 1.2k EHP structure. This is quite high for frigates. You don't usually see these kind of numbers in frigates. You've also got pretty high resist, but I mean high resist is quite normal for most Tech 2 ships. But if we go into another ship, let's say the Hawky Hawk right here, 1.1k HP in the shield, 400 and 600 in the rest of the HPs right here. So it's very low. Let's go in. The Nurgle is also quite a good Abyss ship, but we're not going to be talking about that today. The Vengeance right here, you can say the brother of the Retribution. Look at that, 1k HP armor and 700 HP in the structure. I'm not really caring about the shield, because the thing is, the shield, you're not going to be tanking as a shield in the Vengeance right here, or an armor-based ship. I mean, my ship's pretty much always armor-based, so I'm just thinking about what kind of tank is going to be used right here. So the tank we're going to be using is this fat armor, fat structure. So why is buffer really important in the Abyss? Why is it important? Why even bother talking about that, Aceface? The reason is because naturally the frigates have very low EHP compared to their cruiser counterparts. When you're in the Abyss, you want to be able to have a certain degree of buffer, preferably as much as you can, because wrecking shots are really one of your biggest downfalls when you're doing somewhat higher tier of Abyss in frigates. Because the wrecking shots is like a small probability of a ship doing a really big shot. I think it's a multiplier by 6 or 3, I can't remember, but it is a very big shot that has a very low likelihood of happening, but can happen, and it doesn't care how far you are away from the ship, and it doesn't care how good your transversal is. So you can be traveling really fast in a circle around a ship, really far away as well, or really close, of taking no damage, and suddenly boom, you can take a wrecking shot. And that's when you want to have a decent amount of structure or armor as well, buffer, because the thing is, buffer is going to allow you to survive these. The problem with frigates is that often they're able to get one-shotted by this. I've had the issue with the Vengeance right here, a really big issue in fact, is that I've lost, and quite I think it's T1 and even T2, I've lost them. And it's not because we had bad tank. We had actually really good armor HP per second. I think I've got some armor HP implants in right here. So we don't have 110 HP per second without any implants. But the point is, it has really good resists. Really good resists. And really good HP per second. But I was somehow able to die. Why? Because I didn't have enough buffer. I just got one-shotted by, I think it was a Rogue Battlecruiser that did a really big volley shot. And just killed me. I mean, if you get one shot, doesn't matter how much HP per second you have, you just get one-shotted. So that's one attribute of the Retribution that I think that makes it really great, is that its buffer is right there. And the bigger issue with the wrecking shots arises from these kind of ships like Charybdis Tyrannos, and basically big ships that do big volleys. That's where the biggest problem with wrecking shots occurs. Rogue Battlecruisers also do big volleys as well. So, okay, so it's got a really good structure and armor buffer, so it has a pretty good resistance to wrecking shots. I mean, it's not impossible, but you can get wrecking shots kill you in high tier like T5, T6. You can get killed by wrecking shots, but it's not at all as big of an issue compared to other frigates. Then, when it comes to its resists, as I said before, they're pretty high. They are not optimal for the Abyss. This is the one thing the Retribution has that is like a downside in the Abyss. If they replace the kinetic with the thermal, it would be perfect. It would just be a perfect resist profile, because you won't have loss of thermal damage or thermal resistance in the Abyss. This kinetic right here is quite of a waste, because there's very little incoming kinetic damage in the Abyss. So that's the only downside this ship has. So it has got good resist otherwise, so naturally we're going to be tanking quite a bit. So our armor HP will then just be a lot stronger. Then another thing is, the second reason that I think it is a really, really good Abyss ship is that its offensive capabilities are really great, especially with beam lasers. This ship right here has such a good damage projection, or like DPS and range combo. It's both good at doing a lot of damage, but it's also good at doing damage at a really long range. So we can see here we've got the small focus beam laser, Aurora, 190 DPS. Okay, it's not really high DPS, but it's decent DPS. At 48 kilometer fall off right here. That's no joke right there. If we go in for a Hawk, for example, but keep in mind we're using Tech 2 fit right here, pretty cheap fit. Let's go for this fit right here. No, I want to find something that has Tech 2 ballistic control systems. Yeah, okay. So if we go with the Scourge Fury, we do 212 DPS, and we have 47 kilometer range. So that's a tiny bit less range than Retribution. In fact, it's about the same range, because the Retribution has a fall off of 48 kilometers. Optimal is slower. This will be doing damage all the time. But you see here, the damage is just a tiny bit less than the Hawk right here. But on the other hand, you think, okay, Space, what do you mean? Why has it got so good damage per range if it does less DPS than a Hawk? The thing you have to remember there is that Hawk right there, it was using its Scourge Rage ammunition, or Scourge Fury. Hawk, you see here, if it uses Scourge Fury, this is the short range ammunition. You can't get any shorter than this. This is the most amount of DPS the Hawk is going to do. It's going to be doing this amount of DPS all the time. All the time, not going to be doing any more DPS than this. And the Retribution, on the other hand, is able to adapt. It's able to adapt with different ammo types, because this is the longest range ammunition. If stuff is up close, we can go with a standard, and we have 220 DPS. That is more DPS than the Hawk, lower range, 28, 25. If we're up close, multi-frequency, 12 kilometer fall off, 12 kilometer optimal, and 16 kilometer fall off. 330 DPS. This is no joke right here. And 335 with the Gleam, which is basically the same, but 330 DPS. This ability to adapt is really good in the Abyss, because often frigates, not all the time, but often they'll be kiting. They'll be keeping range, doing damage at range, withering down their targets with maybe not the highest or closest range ammunition, highest DPS, close ammunition, or maybe not be the most useful damage type for the frigates. In the case of the Hawk, it's able to use like Scourge Fury all the time. The thing is, though, with the Retribution, you sometimes do need these really close range, high DPS ammunition types, and that is when it comes to the battleships, because when you've got battleships, they have a lot of HP, you can get in close and you can just kill them and not have to worry really about taking any damage at all, because you'll be just out-tracking them. And that is when it's really good to have a lot of DPS, because you'll be wasting so much time with the Hawk, with the 212 DPS all the time, it's as if you're using kiting ammunition, but you're using it at short range as well. It's going to be a bit of waste. You're going to be taking out battleships quite slowly. But the Hawk is a good Abyss ship as well. But what I'm trying to say is the Retribution is quite good at this, because it'll be able to beat up the battleships really fast. So the point I'm trying to make is that the Retribution right here has got a really good ability to adapt its range and damage, and it's a really nice mix right there. Another thing that is really great about the Retribution is that it's doing a lot of EM damage. A lot of EM damage right here. And that is good for the electrical sites. And the electrical sites are very good if you're able to do them well. The electrical sites are very good because they buff your capacitor recharge rate. Your capacitor recharge rate is going to be like really great there, and it'll make it a lot easier for you to survive these sites. The downside to the electrical sites is because they're easy, they go for a high price, but the point is that these Retributions are really optimal for that because of the reduced EM damage. You're doing EM damage right here. A Hawk, for example, does kinetic damage, mostly. It can do EM damage, but it does more kinetic damage. Here, we're focused on the electrical side. If we want to, we can do the electrical sides and just do them really well because of the EM damage you're doing right here. So again, our damage is going to be really good, increased further because of the reduced EM resist. Another thing I like about the Retribution is that this fit here that was made by Jury is just so great. It's only a 54 million ISK chip right here. It can do pretty well T2 electrics with max skills solo. It can get hairy at times if you're not too skilled, but if you're skilled with your Abyss parting skills, you can do them pretty reliably. I prefer to not do them if I'm, for example, in a very sleepy mood, but otherwise it usually works out really fine. This fit is so cheap, Tech 2 fitted, works really well, and is able to just slap out these T1 and T2 sides with relative ease. It's not always so easy to do, especially the T2s in cheap ships solo. And also, the great thing about it is that this can also be used as like a force multiplier. So you could do 2 of these guys in T3s, and you can even use 3 of them for T4s, but it can get a bit hairy depending on the waves. But these can be used to do high tier filaments as well. So in a cheap price, I don't see that in many ships. Another thing I love about this ship is that it's able to use like turrets as a weaponry and use them good. Because if you're using missiles, for example, missiles, they can sometimes not turn out so well. You could, for example, have the deviant automatic suppressors. They just shoot down your missiles. It's not going to be a good time. Here, we're going to be doing damage all the time. We won't be having to worry about the deviant automatic suppressors shooting down our missiles. So this is going to be more like constant consecutive damage. On the other hand, missiles are good because they don't have to worry too much about transversal. In fact, they don't have to worry at all about it, just really the absolute speed of the target. But here I find that when you're shoved into situations with default automatic suppressors, it can really help a lot because it's just going to be doing full damage all the time. So that's a little bit of my fanboyism of the Retribution. I really think it's got great tank, great buffer, which is important in the Abyss, really good range and really good DPS for the range, good type of damage type, optimal for the electrical sites, which are by default quite easy filaments to run, making it an overall really great Abyss ship. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe. I'll catch you guys later.